Hello.
Hello, welcome back.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's like I never change clothes sometimes.
I know, sometimes. Well, I think that's the joys of, being in this...
Being cheeky and shooting outside of...
And digital meeting. Well, yeah, I mean, when we recorded Zee's conversation a few weeks back, it was just you and me.
Yeah.
Because obviously Rocky and our other editor, Tane, were not available.
Yeah.
So we're going to do the intros and outros now.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Which is
got to be done.
Got to be done. So we may as well just do them. Zee Tana.
Yeah.
Man, I've known that guy for a little while.
Yeah, so have I. I've known him since I've known him nearly 10 years.
I was going to say, you've known him a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting way to meet the guy too.
What were your thoughts about the whole podcast? Because obviously you know him from like when he was in high school or just now, or after high school?
I knew him sometime after he'd come back from Australia at some stage.
Okay,
he's been back and forth there.
Yeah, he does say that in the podcast. Yeah,
more than I thought he had.
Yeah,
like I thought his story was fascinating because I got to admit I kind of fell out of touch with him for a while there, and then when I started working with Big Fets, I kind of got back in touch with him, and he'd only just come back. Big Fets. I directed his music videos back in...
Right, okay, so...
2018, 2016, 2018, somewhere around there.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so when I knew him then to now, and he's gone leaps and bounds for the Whangarei community and in the Whangarei community. So it's a real cool story.
There was so much in amongst it all. It was kind of like... For me, sitting down and interviewing him...
Yeah.
I didn't really know much about him. I knew of his chefing side, in terms of like what he does for Whangarei locally, but I didn't know like none of the backstory at all. So as he's sort of talking and being incredibly open, and I mean he's probably one of those guests that just went deep. Yeah. Like really deep.
He was very detailed in where he came from and where he's been, and his story was very, very enlightening.
It was. And it
is very enlightening.
It is very enlightening, because I mean obviously he's still on his journey, and he's got some exciting stuff that he shares with us. And
for sure.
And when we filmed him, we were the first. Yep. He kind of shared his information before anyone else, which I thought was incredibly exciting. Now, he's coming out later on this week, on the 4th of August. So, there'll be information out in the community now, but, for us to get that as an exclusive was super cool. Yeah. It was very, very cool.
Very humbling.
Yeah, it was actually very humbling indeed. So, without further ado, and on that wonderful high note, let's sit down and have a conversation with Zee Tana. And we just normally start off quite casually, but...
Easy.
Yeah, I know. So, Zee Tana.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking forward to this one. Welcome to the Five Elements Media Studio to sit down and kōrero with me on the Northland Artist Conversation. I cannot tell you how honoured I am to have you in here.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you're bringing to Whangarei and providing this service to be able to share people's stories, because I know there are plenty of stories here in Whangarei worth telling and worth hearing.
Absolutely, and we've had some amazing artists come and sit down and kōrero with us so far, which has been great, and we've got half a dozen more lined up with scheduled release dates and everything, so we are really, really excited.
Awesome. I'm glad you pulled me into the same group as these artists. I'm obviously not the atypical artist.
No, you aren't.
Think I am, but again, art is subjective, so it really depends on how you look at it.
Now that's it's interesting you say that, and we'll kind of cover that, because you're a chef by trade.
Yes.
And so when Andrew and I first started the podcast, we were sitting down going, who do we want to include? And I was like, well, Andrew's got a background in hip-hop, I've got a background in metal, and as an actor. So it was like, okay, cool. Well, we've got that usual pool of suspects there. And then it was like, okay, well, what about, people like glass blowers or pottery makers? And then Andrew was like, well, what about, graffiti artists or tattooists? And I was like, oh, that's really going to open up a window of possibilities. And I was like, well, what about chefs? Why can't we have people that create really interesting things with food? That's a creation. It's not like they just rolled up with a potato and was like, here's a potato. They're very much... You could.
Subjective, really.
Exactly. Have a potato and have a carrot, and it's like, it's deconstructed. But you can, I think what you do with food is just really interesting, and I've eaten a lot of places around New Zealand. Obviously, I'm a larger guy, that's okay, and I do like food. But having sort of been someone who kind of came to now, is it Palate Wholesome Collective?
Yeah,
yep,
that's exactly it.
Cool. Located on John Street.
Yep, 50 John Street.
50 John Street.
Find us.
There you go. I'd never really tried sort of vegetarian or vegan. Which one is it? Is it both?
It's vegan. Yeah,
vegan.
We are vegan, so we don't use any animal products or animal byproducts. We're also gluten-free as well, so we cover most areas of health or food allergens that people have nowadays.
Yeah,
it's quite
absolutely.
a modern sort of thing to have
definitely.
kids or people with those.
And I guess the good thing is you guys kind of cater for, like, you, much like yourself as a person, make everyone feel inclusive.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we set out to do.
Yeah, and you've definitely accomplished that, because when I had my first dish there, that someone bought for me and was like, you should try this. I remember taking a photo, and then I think 3 minutes later I took another photo. I was like, I can't believe I've demolished this. And it was so incredibly tasty, because I've been like, I was meat and 3 veg. I'm 47. That's kind of how we were raised, meat and 3 veg and all that sort of stuff. And I'd recently converted to removing meat from my diet. And I was really struggling for options apart from the options in the supermarket where it's like bougie vegan nuggets and all that sort of shit.
Yeah.
So having gotten hold of your food, I was like, this is flavorful, tasty,
nice,
generous portion size, but goddamn, it's super healthy. And I was like, yes, I'm all in. So that's why for me, when we started the podcast and I threw the idea of chef out to Andrew, I knew exactly that I wanted to get you in quite early. So
awesome.
So for me, that's why it's cool that you're here.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and I totally appreciate you having me and having me in your thoughts as well.
Yeah.
After coming and visiting us down at the store, it means that we've set a memory for you.
Absolutely.
And that's obviously created this, and it encourages us on to know that there's other people out there that may not even have known about us. I mean, we've been there 4 years now, and there's still people.
4 years?
4 years, yeah. And we still get people coming and being like, what hell?
I think I only found out about you guys about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy.
So for that, and we're not really out there marketing ourselves too heavily, and we're not banging on drums and saying, we're here. No, you're not. Let people organically kind of find us, because then we kind of believe it's more about people's, like your own journey, just finding us themselves and figuring it out themselves. We're not there to be like, hey, stop eating meat and stop killing animals. Yeah, that's your journey. We're just going to provide a service, a space, and wholesome food.
And I think that's really evident in your social media, on Facebook especially. And because you guys, you post regularly, there's lots of really appetizing food photos and stuff like that. And there's always these like little short videos of you and the team sort of smiling, happy, and really loving what you're doing, which is very refreshing to see, because it's authentic. It's not coming from a a place of being staged, or where it's like having teams of people sitting down going, how can we produce the best content?
And
it's
take
like
people's money.
Yeah. It's very heartfelt and very honest. So for me, that all of those sorts of things fit the criteria of someone who's creative.
And that represents our name as well. That's kind of why we went with Palette Wholesome Collective. Obviously, palette being your flavor palette, or it can be your artist palette.
Yep.
In this sort of instance, wholesome is more about what we represent ourselves, that we want to live more wholesome lives. We want to share that with other people.
Yeah.
We want it to be affordable as well, and we want it to be portioned well, because there's plenty of places you could go around and eat and pay top dollar, big money, and then your portion size is small, or you're not satisfied with the stuff. So our thoughts were about allowing for anyone, no matter who you are, no matter what your thoughts are on veganism or otherwise, if you came to our place and you found something that was affordable for you to eat and you ate it and you enjoyed it, done. We've done our job. We don't need you to be vegan. We don't need you to be gluten free. But if we planted a small seed in your puku, and you enjoyed that and you enjoyed the food, then you'll most likely come back on your own accord.
Absolutely. So obviously that's where you are now. Let's rewind. And I mean rewind, like a number of years, because you're born and bred Whangarei.
Yes.
But much like a lot of people that I've sort of talked with, because I'm new to the region, I've only been here 6.5 years, much like a lot of people that were sort of born here, you've kind of flown the coop and then come back.
Yeah.
So what is your journey in Whangarei?
Cool. So I guess I'll go back to Whangarei Hospital, Manu.
There you go, sure.
So I was born here in Whangarei. My family originally from further north, Kawakawa and Moerua.
Nice.
My mum's family are from Karetu and Waikato, a little bit further out east of Kawakawa. I was whāngai to my grandparents and my dad's parents. So in the context of whāngai, I was kind of gifted to my grandparents without all of the, court framework,
legal
around adoption.
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
It was
Okay.
just, kindred gifting between families, which
sure.
still exists nowadays
Yes.
here, and is still a tikanga practice for Māori. At the time, I kind of thought, as a kid, growing up with my grandparents, who were a whole nother generation on, they'd already brought up. My dad was the youngest of 13 kids.
Wow.
So massive family.
Huge family,
all of my dad's siblings pretty much were old enough that they all had kids as well, and they all kind of moved out. So my grandparents had, I guess, a little tiny open nest for me and one of my cousins and also my sister to live with them. My parents were pretty young when they had me. They were about 16 and 17, so they were kids themselves.
It's kids having kids,
and that hasn't really changed here in Whangarei.
Unfortunately,
too
not.
much, which is a situation we're still kind of working through. But to kind of personally go through that experience myself and live with my grandparents, I always had this feeling of like, I'm different. Like, what's up with that? Why do I have to live with my grandparents? All the other kids get to stay with their mum and dad. This sucks. And my nana and granddad were so old school as well that if you put one foot out of line, if you did something wrong, they'd always pull you back in line or clip your ear or smack your butt.
Hard out.
That like real old school, because they just didn't really understand the modern ideas of what was going on for me growing up. We moved to Auckland and spent some time living in Auckland for a little while there. And my nana worked closely with the schools that we went to, and she set up one of the first kohanga reo in East Auckland.
Oh wow!
So she was one of my, I guess, keystones to returning back to Te Ao Māori.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't know that at the time, but she was planting those small seeds with myself, my sister, my cousin, and our extended family as well, by still holding firm to her love for Te Ao Māori. And even though we were living in East Auckland, which was predominantly European New Zealanders or Chinese new settlers that were coming into...
Are we talking like Botany Howick type area?
Yeah, exactly. Botany Howick, Pakuranga.
Yep.
Yeah, so for
know the area well, yeah.
Really small Māori whānau in that area.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know Howick is primarily
New Zealand Chinese, or New Zealand Korean.
Yep.
New Zealand South African as well in that area.
Yeah, I think Pakuranga is probably closer to sort of being more Māori.
Yeah, but very small still. Like
I
think there was a larger number of our Pacific whānau.
Yes.
Than there were Māori.
Yep.
So for even living in our own country in our biggest city, for us as Māori, we're still like minority.
Yep.
So
absolutely,
that gave me the opportunity to connect a lot more with my grandparents in that sort of realm, especially with my nana, and getting into kapahaka and
love kapahaka.
Hearing Māori in the house spoken all the time, and obviously going and seeing my nana at the Whangarei. She really instilled ideas in me that it's not until now in my adult years I'm like, I see what she was doing.
It makes sense now.
I see what she was doing.
At the time, possibly not so much.
At the time, it was like, I don't want to go to that. That's boring. Or I don't want to speak Māori. I want to speak Pākehā or Mandarin.
Yeah.
Which she encouraged as well. Any opportunity for learning or education, she was always about. Especially because she was, like I said, she set up Whangarei to teach our language. So she was already a kaioko. She was already a teacher. And she was already trying to provide te ao Māori to the wider audience. And I'd say she had probably 3 Māori kids in her Whangarei. The rest were Samoan, Tongan, Mexican, Chinese.
Oh wow!
South African,
okay,
learning our language. So
like a real big, diverse sort of melting pot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and it was all in Māori. It was total immersion in Māori. So all of these kids were going away from there, learning the language.
Wow.
Whereas us kids at home, and I know a lot of my cousins were like, no, we don't want to learn Māori. It's boring. I want to learn something awesome, or I want to do a sport, or do something in art, or something. But it gave us a great opportunity to connect with her in that sort of area.
No, and how long were you sort of in Auckland for before you made your way back?
We were there till we were back and forth between Auckland and Sydney, where my dad was living at the time, and my mum was here in Whangarei for a little bit. So both my sister and I were kind of all over the place for a little while there. Yeah. We ended up moving back to Whangarei officially from Auckland once prices started to increase and we couldn't necessarily afford to live there anymore.
It's not cheap in Auckland.
No. And a couple of times, 2 times actually, my nana's Whangarei got burnt down.
Wow.
With suspicious...
under suspicious circumstances.
Yeah. We don't know exactly what it was or why, but it was a good chance for us to head home.
Yeah.
And so we came up to Whangarei when I was probably about 13 after... like I said, being in Australia or being up north or in Auckland. And I was here at Whangarei Boys High for about 2 years.
Okay, yeah.
And we lived just off Western Hills Drive, which was fantastic. So it wasn't too far for me to walk to school and back.
Excellent.
So that gave me a real taste of Whangarei being at Boys High.
Absolutely.
Got to meet a whole bunch of great mates from Boys High, and
still keep in touch with any of them.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, I think we kind of talked about this earlier. Is a lot of us boys had realised that Whangarei's not it for us. We're all off.
Yeah.
And some went to Waikato Uni and Hamilton and Dunedin, and lots of us went to Australia, and we all kind of just split up.
Yep.
And it's not until recently, coming back, being home recently for the last 6 years, that I've noticed, everyone's come back. Like all the boys have come back. They've got families. They've brought their experience. They brought their skills. Some of them have set up businesses from being away and learning. And coming back. So
yeah, that's amazing.
But yeah, it was cool to go to Boys High and to meet all the people that I met in Whangarei at that time. And then unfortunately, my nana passed when I was about 15.
Oh, so sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, no, well, she's all good. She's with me every day.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, she passed then, and it definitely spiraled me into, I guess, depression. I didn't know it at the time, but just intense grief, and I was a bit lost then. I didn't really know what to do after she'd passed, because she was kind of the glue that held our family together. She was also kind of like my my matriarch figure.
I was going to say, she's very matriarchal.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it kind of put my granddad in a similar situation as me. We were both kind of like, what do we do now? I'm a bit lost. And so he ended up moving to Kitty. And I didn't really know what to do after that. My dad was still in Australia. My mum had my sisters and whānau. And I kind of just thought, well, I'm 15 now. Like, I guess I've got to grow up and be an adult. At such a young age.
You look like, at the time, you're like, that's obviously a huge moment to have where you're like, I've got to be a responsible adult now.
Yeah,
but looking back on it, you go, 15, I was a kid. I'm still a kid.
Yeah. So I ended up, and when I think about that time as well, it reminds me that, my parents were having me just a year on from that.
Yes, of course.
So they were young parents, and I thought, well, I don't necessarily want to, not that what happened with them was bad, but I didn't want that for me either.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be a young parent.
Yeah, you didn't want to follow the footsteps.
I just didn't know what I was doing as well. Like, I could barely figure out how to take care of me at 15, let alone a whole nother child or a person. So, so I ended up moving to Australia officially and moved to Sydney. Spent some time over there with my dad and family. And then wasn't sure about the lifestyle there at the time. We'd been there on holidays lots of times before, and living and holiday were
very different things,
completely different worlds.
Yeah, because when you're on holiday, it's all fun and joy, and you do all the cool things. When you're living there, it's like, no, there's the regular grind. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I ended up coming home, and by then my mum and family had moved down to Hamilton.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, it gave me a chance to go down and live in Hamilton for a few years. Went to Wintec for a little bit there and studied for a wee bit in English language teaching, and did some hospitality. And I guess that was my first kind of entry into hospitality.
Right. Okay. What did you... So hospitality just in general?
It was general bar manager's course, as well as a not the one that you do just like a day course. Like, it was a full year's
is it like a whole
with
course?
Hospitality involved?
Sure.
And when I look back at it now, I just think, that was a wasted year, but there's silver lining in it, and there was experience, and I met a lot of people, and I guess it kind of shaped me a little bit, because that was the first tertiary experience I really had outside of leaving school so suddenly. And then that led me on to a few other studies in different areas, but it gave me a chance to work at bars, and by that time I was about 17, 18. So,
okay, right, yeah.
So I was able to obviously work in those areas. And at that kind of stage, then that's when I was kind of coming into myself and not really knowing who I was still and what I was about. And
you're still young.
Yeah, and in a different city.
Yeah.
With my mum and family down there, and I was kind of still living my own life apart from them, but living at home with them.
Yeah.
And then I guess I wasn't quite sure about that. That's when a lot of like my sexuality of myself and who I am and what I represent started to come out. And I thought, what do I do with this? No, I can't. I've got to hide this away. And
really?
Don't bring this out. Like, now is not the right time.
Okay.
So
now, was that a conscious choice for you, or do you feel it was like a societal pressure?
I think it was a bit of both. I think the conscious choice was, I don't want to upset my family.
Okay. Yeah.
And the societal pressure of it was, I don't want to tell people, because they already know that I've had several girlfriends, and it's this whole other person that's been hiding behind
it's not like though, right?
Well, I wasn't sure.
Honestly,
like, I kind of all the way through my youth was quite open, and had plenty of girlfriends and plenty of situations where I'd connected with boys, but I wasn't sure, like, what am I?
Yeah.
And even the word, like the term gay, I didn't even know what that meant. Until I was probably about 17, really. Because I just didn't know what it meant. I just liked everyone. I was just a likable guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, now people will probably say you're greedy, but no.
Okay, right.
At the time, I just had no idea. So I just didn't understand the concept of it. And once I did, I thought, okay, I've got to be careful. I don't want to upset my family.
Yeah.
When I was 21, still living in Hamilton, I ended up coming out
Okay.
officially.
Right.
Just a little bit after my birthday. And I actually told my little sister, because I knew anything I tell her, the family will know probably
Right.
sooner than me trying to tell them.
Yeah. So it's like, I'll tell you, you'll distribute the information quicker than I will.
That's exactly what I did. And it worked. And I'm grateful for her, because she did it with kindness. And I don't know if I could have had that conversation so easily with, I know my parents would be understanding, but I don't know if, I never did it, so I don't know what it would have felt like otherwise, until I had to tell them myself face to face.
Yeah.
So I thank my sister for that.
It's so funny. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine's daughter. So I was very, very close with the family. Still am to this day. And the daughter sort of reached out to me and was like, hey, I've got a question for you. And I was like, well, look, shoot, just ask me anything. And she was like, how do I tell my parents that I like girls as well as guys? And I was like, well, how long have you felt like this for? And she goes, well, it was a little while. And I was like, okay, well, just go up to them and tell them. She's like, I don't know how they're going to react. And I was like, I can tell you how they're going to react. And she was like, how was it? And I said, they're actually not going to care. Their main thing is, are you happy? And that's all they'll care about. So I remember her telling me, I'm going to go do it. And I was like, you'll be fine. Just go do it. And then she came back a couple of hours later and she was like, I did it. And I was like, how'd it go? And she was like, yeah, they're like, okay. And that was it. That was the whole conversation. It was like, okay. They just accepted it straight away. Yeah. And she was completely forward. Like, she'd built it up in her head as like this huge thing. And her parents just went, oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess from my own perspective, I feel like a lot of kids, and it's still happening now, a lot of kids are so scared to be able to connect with the people that love them the most. Yeah. Because they just don't want a disappointment.
Yeah.
They don't want to disappoint them. They don't want to be a disappointment themselves. Yeah. And I guess as well, for me anyway, I just only ever wanted to make my parents proud. And I thought not being able to have kids, or, not being, I guess, what was deemed at the time normal.
Well, I'm adopted. My parents didn't have kids. It's really irrelevant, surely.
Oh, I guess as a young, between 15 and 21 when this was all going on.
Yeah, confusing times.
No idea. Hormones and I couldn't figure out who I was at the time. Yeah. But that helped me cement more and more a foundation in myself, that each time I learned, okay, they didn't react the way I thought they would, or I didn't react the way I thought I would if they found out. Yeah. That those create better, stronger foundations between me and my dad's relationship, myself and my mum's relationship, and just makes them stronger. So when I look back at that now, I'm proud of myself, proud of how I came out, who I am today because of that. And
very cool.
Yeah.
So you're in Hamilton, and you have finished your courses at Wintec, is that right?
Yep.
Where does life take you from this point onwards?
It got a bit dark, I guess.
Really?
From after then, yeah. My mum and family ended up coming home to Whangarei, and a little bit further actually to Marumaku, just a little farming community just out of Torway. So yeah, they came home, and I was in, I guess, another situation of, whoa, okay, I'm by myself and I'm in like an adult situation. What do I need to do? Really weird, I guess. I ended up hanging out with I worked at the cinemas at the time in Hamilton, and I ended up hanging out with one of my boss's exes, who was a guy.
Okay.
And we ended up getting on really well and ended up in a relationship for about maybe a year and a half. It's blurry because it was quite dark at the time.
Yeah.
I was about
early 20s?
Yeah, 19.
Okay, 19, yeah, sure, okay.
And he was actually the age I am now, which is so strange to kind of reflect back on now. He was about 36, so much older than me. But I didn't tell anyone. I had a secret life for about a year and a half, 2 years.
Wow, okay.
In this relationship, and pretended that his flatmate who was a girl.
Yes.
That she was actually my girlfriend, and that's where I was living, and that's where I was visiting, and I'd tell all my friends, oh no, she can't come out tonight, and they'd be like, what's wrong with your girlfriend? Why did she come out with us? Does she not like us? And I'd just be like, no, she can't, sorry.
Yeah.
And I just lived this secret life for a long time, and I just I guess getting into the dark part of it was just I was manipulated for a long time because I was scared. I was still scared to be myself, to be this kind of person that I didn't know how to be.
What is it they say? Your authentic self? Is that what they say nowadays?
I guess my authentic self.
Okay.
And I was manipulated in the way that, and this was just before I came out on my 21st, but by my ex, I guess, saying, if you leave me, or if you don't do what I say, I'll tell your friends about you.
Wow.
I'll like out you.
Wow. Okay.
So for a long time, I was kind of stuck in a bit of a pickle, and then I ended up just breaking the cycle and just thought, I can't. I can't do this anymore. Like it's not manageable. I've gone through enough anyway.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to also deal with this.
Yeah.
So I ended up finishing that relationship, and that kind of helped me to come out.
Okay,
because someone else's trying to out me made me think, well, nah, only I can do this. Like you can't go around telling people about me.
You take back your power, right?
That's exactly it, bro, and that's exactly what I realized.
Yeah, nice.
That I have to do this myself, and it wasn't the timing I wanted it to be, but there's no better time than now.
I was going to say, is there ever a right time?
I don't know. No. Turn 21. Now's your time.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you gay or not? So I ended up coming out, and like I said, it was still pretty difficult. Even after coming out, I still thought, oh my gosh, what's going on? I just hope I haven't disappointed anyone. And I'm the same me. It's just your view may have changed, or they may not meet mine. And coming from a big family, I love my family. It's a huge family. When we get together, obviously you can imagine from all of my grandparents' kids to all the kids they've had to all my other second cousins. So I just didn't want to be any more different than I already thought I was, being one of the whitest of our family.
Right.
And a big Māori family. Yeah. Obviously being gay as well, and being spoilt and being cared for and brought up by my grandparents. And I know a lot of my whānau always thought, oh, he's blimmin' spoilt, but I had not much else.
I mean, realistically, what were the other options?
Yeah, not many.
Exactly.
Not many. So,
if any. Quote Scribe.
Thank you, Scribe.
Yep.
I started to learn then as well, after my grandma had been passed, my nan had been passed for about 7 years by the time I finally came out.
Yeah.
And at that time, I realized, wow, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful, and I know she would have been proud of me for, even no matter what I came out as or anything. She would have just been happy that I was, like you said earlier, happy.
Yeah,
that I was happy.
That's
so
it. Just be happy.
And in that time, I just realized how grateful I was to be able to share in 2 generations worth of knowledge. My parents,
absolutely,
plus my grandparents.
Yeah.
And to be independent. She taught me really to be independent, to stand on my own 2 feet, because I think she just knew she's not going to be here forever. Even though I always said to her, you'll live forever, eh, Nan? You'll look after me forever.
Exactly. I'll be 46 and you'll still be going, no, you need to eat your greens.
I think if she was still here, she probably would. But I think she was planning. She was a smart woman.
Yeah, nice.
And she's one of the, like I said, she's like a keystone figure in my life. She's someone that I will always hold in high regard, because she just did her best for everyone, and she was overly generous. She was a people person. She was a person of the community, and she would just do as much as she could. And for me, that's where food comes in, because she was about nourishment, not just through consumption of food, but nourishing yourself by being in the right company, nourishing yourself by feeding other people knowledge. And sharing in wealth. We didn't have a lot, but we'd always try and share with whānau that didn't have much either. So for me, where I am today, the person I am, the chef I am, as much generosity I have, the upbeat tempo that I live my life
by,
is definitely down to having a big family,
yes,
but also having my nana as the glue for our family, and providing that.
Just about to say, everything that you've just said about your nana is you.
Yeah,
and that's from the interactions that I've had with you. That is you. I was like, is he talking about himself or his nana? I was like, well, he said his nana a couple of times, but it's like, that's him, that's him, that's him, that's him. Essentially, it's nourishing the soul.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And like I said before, just setting. She knew that she wasn't going to be here for long, so she started implementing in me good ideals, even if they weren't integrated sooner than they should have been, but they were there.
Sometimes they just take a while.
They're in the background being distracted and hidden.
Yeah.
But no, absolutely grateful for them, for both my grandparents, actually. They sacrificed a lot for me.
Yeah.
And a lot for our family. And still do, even though they're both passed now, both my grandparents, they still come up. They're still a part of our conversation. They're still with us in memory and in our conversations as family, and it's wholesome. I love it.
Yeah. When does your journey into food begin?
So I guess like I said, I got a taste of it working in hospitality.
In the hospitality
starting out there,
course in Wintec, and then then you actually went into a bit of bar work and stuff like that.
Yeah,
right? Yep.
And did both for a little while, and then worked at the cinemas for a little bit. There as well, and then shifted out of there and completely changed career and started working as a financial consultant for a vehicle finance company.
A financial consultant?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, this is not where I was expecting the conversation to go.
No.
Okay, that's a career shift.
It was a great job, actually. I had a really good time working there. The pay was great. The crew was great. The company was great.
Yeah.
Our boss would take us on helicopter rides from Hamilton out to Raglan Christmas time.
Wow.
It was real fun times. But I was working 3 jobs at that time. I was working at the cinemas. I was working at the vehicle finance company and doing security work at a couple of clubs in Hamilton. And when I look back at that now, I'm like, how did you do that? What? I would never do. I wouldn't even do 2 jobs.
I know. I look back in my late 20s, early 30s going, why did I have 5 jobs? The hell was I thinking?
Yeah, when I look back, I just think, I don't know how I did that. But I guess my entry into service, which is kind of more how I see it as opposed to just hospitality or just food, into service was... I'd say working as a security
really?
In Hamilton at a bar, and just seeing people outside of their probably authentic self, because they're drunk and they're a bit crazy and people want to fight and stuff.
They're going to do shit they wouldn't do normally.
This is a whole nother perspective on what you'd normally think you see if you were just working in a kitchen per se.
Yeah.
But it's still service, and you're still helping people and guiding people. I eventually got into working in kitchens. Once I ended up moving so I'd finished up in Hamilton and then ended up moving back to Australia as an adult.
Right.
And my ex and I moved there together. We went to live in Sydney, and I worked for a few different places, but started working at a pub in Penrith, Western Sydney.
Penrith. Sorry. I'm going to relate it to rugby league.
Panthers.
Penrith Panthers.
Gotcha.
There we go.
That's it. So I ended up working there for a little while.
Yeah.
And worked in an adult shop at the same time, which was
crazy.
Which was pretty cool. I was there for about 2 years doing both sort of jobs there. And at the time I was living in Blacktown. I don't know if you know where that is.
I do not know Blacktown.
So it gave me a chance to go back to Australia and kind of spread my wings a bit.
Yeah.
In the bigger, wider world. And then just did random catering jobs all over the place, all over Australia.
Yeah.
Ended up finishing up in Sydney and moving up to Mackay, which is like
Gold Coast?
More like central Queensland.
Okay.
Central Coast Queensland, further up near Airlie Beach.
Okay.
And landed a job in the mines, but working in the mess.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And that was probably one of my biggest jobs, and that gave me a chance to complete my apprenticeship out of the mines. So,
oh, wow. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so I did a chefing apprenticeship, and they helped me to finish it off.
Nice. Okay.
I was in there, which was cool.
That's very cool.
But not a cool job. Like, it was probably one of the hardest places I've ever worked before. And
in terms of what? Conditions, environment, people, everything?
all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
People, and I'm not saying this for everyone that works in mines, but people that work in there have high expectations. I guess they get paid really well.
Yes, they do.
So they expect the food to be like this high level expectation.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd meet that. But that means high level, high work. Like, get the job done, make sure it's all beautiful, make sure it's all tasty, make sure it's all on time as well, because they're all on shift work as well.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But so were we, which meant we'd have to do, say, 10 or 11 hours either in the day from 10 till 10 or 11 at night, or the opposite from 10 to or 11 at night.
Oh, wow.
Till the morning.
10 in the morning, yep.
And that showed me a lot of pressure of what heavy, like, fast pace, have to be on time kitchens could be like. I'm glad that they gave me my apprenticeship after that. But I don't, when I look back at it now, I don't think I would ever do that again.
Okay, right.
It was just,
it's a slog.
It was tough living.
Yeah.
And I don't know how people still continue to live and work in that sort of space. Definitely money, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And good on them, because and I can see why a lot of people end up with mental health issues or mental health challenges out there, because you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And you've got your own little donga, your own little cabin that you stay in by yourself. You're removed from your family. You're away from home. It's long slogs, long hours, and the work's tough, and it can be hot.
Yeah. Absolutely. So you finish up with the mining crew. Where to from there?
Okay, so sorry, one sec.
That's right. Have a big cough. That's all good. It's all good. That's we have these conversations. If you got a cough, you cough.
Bit of the winter.
Oh yeah,
winter cough.
Hard, absolutely.
So I ended up finishing up there in the mines, and was working out of Long Island it's just out of Airlie Beach.
Okay.
Like the Whitsundays.
Yep.
And that gave me an experience of working in fine dining, high level fine dining food.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
And that was awesome. I had a really cool time living and working out of there. And again, it gave me just more experience of the kitchen's not just a pub in Penrith.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have started there and set myself up and start to create my own style as well. Moving through the mines, hard work, going on to somewhere like a beautiful tropical island and the Whitsundays in Australia only added more value. And only added more ammo to my already growing skills in the kitchen. So I ran that kitchen for a little bit, and then ended up finishing up there and going back to Sydney.
Really? So from up there all the way back down to Sydney again. Wow.
Yeah, I thought it was, and I think that's a lot of my story is about that, is going from just journeying, just going from one place, going away, thinking, oh no, I don't want to go there again, and then end up being back there, like I am here in Whangarei again.
Yeah.
But ended up spending more time back in Sydney, and wasn't quite sure again, another time in my life where I thought, what am I doing?
Yeah. Okay.
At the time I was single. I didn't really know what I should have done after that. I didn't really want to be in Sydney anymore, but I didn't want to come home. And so I decided, well, I'm just going to go to Cairns randomly.
That's random.
For a holiday.
Okay.
So I ended up going up to Cairns for a holiday for a week and a bit. And while I was up there, I ended up getting a little message from someone while I was up there, and I was like, oh, who is this random person?
Yes.
Seems pretty interesting. And then left it at that.
Progressed. Probably did nothing about it.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just left it at that, and then came back to Sydney after my holiday. And then while I was in Sydney, I thought, that's it, I'm going to move. I'm going to move to far north Queensland and just have a different life and go by myself. And again, another opportunity for me to just journey and see where the wind takes me and see what kitchens I can end up in to work.
Yep.
Ended up heading up to Cairns. And I didn't end up even living there. I ended up moving to Port Douglas, which is an hour north of there.
I know Port Douglas, yeah.
And got a message again from someone that had messaged me 6 months prior when I was
same message, same person.
Yeah, same person.
Okay, yeah.
And they were like, "Hey, are you in town? I think I've seen you." And I was like, "Yeah, I am in town. I've just started working here at a cafe around the corner."
Yeah.
And that just happened to turn out to be my partner, who I've been with for the last 8 years.
No.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so massive journey. But absolute fate and grateful for it.
Wow.
So yeah, we ended up living together in Port Douglas for about 2 years.
Okay, yeah.
And Todd's obviously from the UK, so I wasn't sure whether his plan was to eventually go home.
Yeah.
Or whether he was would be keen to come home with me to New Zealand.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure even then what our plans were. But we ended up landing a job working on super yachts out of the
very nice,
out of the Great Barrier Reef. Out of Port Douglas.
Yep, absolutely.
And that was a whole nother adventure altogether.
Yeah.
Ship captains are full on.
I bet they are.
Absolutely are. But no, we had a great time working on the water, and I miss it actually. I miss being on the water. And it kind of, for me, it just reminded me, this is what my tupuna would have done anidnay. This is my ancestors.
Absolutely.
They would have loved to be on the water. This is just me kind of reconnecting with that love to be on the water.
Yeah.
But Todd didn't like living on the water.
It's
happy to be on the land, but not stuck with all of us crazies on the water. But we had a great time working out of there, and that helped us to save a little bit of money to then start making plans to look at coming home.
Okay, so the plan was for him to sort of come back with you.
We'd decided on that after I'd talked to him about it a little bit, and then we weren't sure where we would go. I'd never been to the South Island, and he'd never... I guess he might have passed through Whangarei, but I don't think he'd actually stayed here before.
Sure, yeah.
And I was still in my mind, I was still in the thought of, I don't want to go back to Whangarei.
Don't go, you're not there.
It's not the place I want to be right now. It's, it's a little bit slower, and I didn't see the value in Whangarei at the time.
Yep, sure.
So we ended up moving to Queenstown.
Very nice.
And Todd had already lived in Queenstown for a couple of years prior to moving up to far north Queensland.
Yep.
So he already had in his mind what he kind of thought it was going to be like, because he'd been there before.
Yeah, of course.
He'd already lived it. And
Absolutely.
he kind of explained it to me, and when we got there I was like, this is awesome. We had a really good time while we lived there, and that was for about 2 years that we were there. And I landed a job working as the head chef for Aroha, which is, I think it's like New Zealand's number 2 retreat, wellness retreat.
Okay, yeah.
While I was working there, actually, we had, I think during the filming of, I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head, but Oprah, Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, Chris Pine as well. Yes, I know the film.
Wrinkle in Time.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Wrinkle
so
in
they
Time.
were filming that not too far away from us, where we were in Glenorchy.
Yeah.
And so Reese Witherspoon, Oprah, and me.
Mindy Kaling?
Mindy Kaling.
That's one.
So Mindy Kaling and Reese Witherspoon flew into our retreat.
Wow.
And spent a day with us, and we got to cook with them and talk with them. They did a yoga session, did a spa session, massage and stuff, and I was like, what the, oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm living it. I'm finally in the place where I'm...
This is it, the dream. It's all come true.
It is. I'm creating food. I'm using food from the land. It was predominantly vegan. Everything was grown on site.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in Glenorchy. You're not going to be able to just pop to the shops every so often to pick up
It's not a quick trip down to the pack and save.
It's not. No, exactly.
No.
Exactly. So we had to kind of make do with what we had. The gardening team were amazing.
Yeah.
Our kitchen team were fantastic. And we all worked in harmony together to create just amazing produce for our guests. And one of the highlights was absolutely getting to meet Reese Witherspoon.
Wow, it's a pretty big name drop.
Yeah, chuck it out.
Yeah, just throw it out. I mean, why not?
I mean, she'd forget about me altogether, but I'll remember her for the rest of my life.
It's those sort of interactions that you're like, I'm going to remember this because you weren't a dick.
Yeah.
And it was super cool.
Oh, and she was just a good human. Again, like law of attraction, just drawing other good humans together in a beautiful space in the South Island.
It sort of strikes me that your time in Glenorchy and sort of working with the land and the organic produce at the time really sort of was the initial blueprint for what would become Palate Wholesome Collective. And the reason I say that is because you said it's a wellness retreat. So it's not like you're going to go, well, come to the wellness retreat where we will feed you burgers and processed chicken nuggets. It's going to be the complete opposite of that because food very much ties in with body and soul.
Absolutely.
So I guess as someone who's kind of an outsider who's kind of hearing all of this for the first time, I would go, well, I can draw a comparative line between the two.
Absolutely. And you're right in saying that. And the job itself, my partner Todd actually saw it in the paper and was, as he's reading it, he's like, this is describing you.
Yeah.
This job is literally showing up to me to tell you that this job is for you.
Yeah.
And I got it.
Nice.
And it's exactly that. That's an idea of what the idea of what we had there was what I thought we needed at home.
Right. Okay.
That beyond the idea of the retreat, like we're saying, it's just setting up a place where we're able to provide wholesome, nutrient dense, locally sourced, and nourishing food that's filling for people, satiating enough that it's affordable as well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have that here in Whangarei. And when I ended up having a yarn with my partner and just said, look, shall we move home? I was done with the cold. I didn't want to. I love Queenstown. I think it's a great city. I've got lots of mates there, and it's a great place. But home is always where the heart is. And I realized that once we got here, once we finally arrived here in Whangarei, I realized, oh my gosh, absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yep.
Absolutely. But home is where that heart is.
Yep.
And it's true. Like once we got over the Brynderwins, my heart just was like filling up, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the opportunity that we've been waiting for, but I've been actually just putting in the background thinking, I don't want to go home. It's boring and slow.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we got over the Brynderwins I was like, okay, eat your words.
Northland Artist Conversation proudly supports 1737. 1737 are a free service that you can contact either via phone or text message. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On their website, 1737.org.nz, they say, are you feeling stressed or just need to talk to someone? Are you feeling down or a bit overwhelmed? Do you know someone who is feeling out of sorts? Whatever it is, they're there for you. Free call or free text, anytime, 24 hours a day. And you'll get to talk with a trained counsellor or talk with a peer support worker. Their service is completely free. They offer brief one-on-one counselling support sessions for those people that need it a little bit more than normal. Please do not be afraid to reach out if you need support or if you know someone else that needs support as well. 1737 are a fantastic service, and we here at the Northland Artist Conversation are very, very proud to support what they do. 1737, free text or free call. So you've spent time in the beautiful Glenorchy, and then you go, home is where the heart is. Yes. You make that beautiful drive, everything obviously all packed, hit the Brynderwins, and look, I'll be honest, even if I go down to Auckland or anything like that, and I come back and it's like summer, it's just like,
it is, with exactly that noise.
It's just starting.
Northland.
Yeah, exactly. And it just radiates absolute picturesque beauty. Yeah. So you come home, and what's here for you? Where do you go? Because you said you've been here for been back in Whangarei for 6 years, but you've only been doing the
shop for about 4.
Yes.
Yeah, so once we got home, So I actually drove up. My mum and I drove up, and we hired a transit camper that was meant to go from Queenstown to Auckland, drop off for 3 days or whatever. So we just packed that with our house in it.
Yeah.
And my partner and one of our friends and our 2 cats flew up. So he was already here in our house.
Okay,
just outside of Pipiwai Road there, and so he was already waiting for us. So yeah, we did the big drive, did the mission.
It's a hell of a drive.
It was an awesome drive.
It's amazing.
Like, it was full on. My mum and I got stuck in the middle of like somewhere close to Nelson or something because they cut off the road between Christchurch and Picton because of the earthquake.
Yeah, that Kaikoura.
So they're still working on that area there.
Oh, that's funny.
So we had to go right out west, and we just didn't know how to work the camper, so we just slept in like negative, I think it was -8 to 10 degrees.
Oh my, that's ridiculous.
We had no idea what we were doing. Didn't know how to plug it in the middle of nowhere, and we were on a time schedule to get to the ferry and Picton. Yeah. But beyond that, we had an adventure. It was awesome.
It's a hell of a trip, man.
We had a great
That's
time.
an amazing adventure.
So yeah, ended up settling in once we finally got up here. Went into town, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do for work, whether I wanted to get straight into a kitchen or I mean, I'd had a career with Flight Centre for a little while as well, on and off, and there were flight centres all over the country, so I could have easily walked into one to work at.
Yeah, there were flight centres.
There were. Poor flight centre.
I know.
Sucks. But I ended up working at SIBO.
Yes, SIBO Cafe. Yeah.
Worked there for a little while with an amazing team, really cool people, great owners, all majority local. And they also own Jolt up in Manu, so did a bit of...
Oh, Jolt Cafe. Yes, I know that place.
So they had both, so we got a chance to work in both, which was a bit of a variety of work. And I'd say that a lot of the people I know now that I'm still quite good friends with, that that aren't my school friends sort of group.
Right, yep.
Are from working at Jolt and...
Oh, that's very cool.
SIBO, and a lot of them are still kind of in hospo or have moved on to other hospo-related jobs just outside of those two places. And then finished working with them and was wandering through the arcade between Bank Street and the council car park. I can't remember what that's called.
Oh, where the so they've got a hairdressers, they've got the little art studio, and they've got the
power plant.
Power plant, that's the one. Boom, power plant.
So I was walking through there one day and bumped into one of the owners of Power Plant before it opened.
Yep, Civic Arcade.
There
we go.
That's it, Civic Arcade. And I was wandering through there and bumped into him and mentioned who I was, and he'd already kind of knew who I was. And so we ended up connecting, and I ended up working for them for a little while. For the first few years.
Okay.
And then we ended up all at Frida Festival 2018, so getting a little bit closer now.
2018.
And they won. They won the, I think it was the best Frida.
Okay.
I've
been to a couple of them. I went to the one that had Chelsea Green.
Chelsea
Winter, sorry.
Yeah, she was in MasterChef with me.
Oh, yeah, she was wandering around, and it was really, really funny because my old flatmate in Auckland was a huge Chelsea Winter fan. And I'm talking, she had all the cookbooks, and they were all personally signed.
Awesome.
And I was like, oh, this is crazy. And I was like, I just walked up to her and I was like, hey, you don't know me, but I know you by proxy. Do you mind?
Cookbooks.
Yeah. Do you mind if I get a photo with you? So I took a photo with her, and she was super cool and very accommodating.
She really
and I sent the photo to my friend, and she's like, I fucking hate you. And I was like, but bless, it's amazing. Fast forward a couple of years later, when she was getting married to her husband, I was fortunate enough to be the MC at their wedding.
I was at the wedding.
Chelsea's?
Yeah, up in Russell.
Not Chelsea's wedding, my friend's wedding.
Gotcha.
Yep.
There you go.
At my friend's wedding, and I thought everyone else had bought these really cool gifts, and I was like, what is the coolest gift that I could give someone? And I messaged Chelsea through Messenger with a huge long message introducing myself, saying, hey, look, this is how I know of you, this is my flatmate, you and I have met here. I was just wondering if you might be able, and I'd initially asked her if she'd be able to attend, and I said, look, I'd pay for your time and stuff like that. And she was like, I can't do that. So what she did is she left a voice message.
Oh,
and
cool.
she was amazing, and it was so funny because I gave the voice clip to the DJ, and I'm standing in the reception venue, and they're there, and I'm sort of talking about my love for my flatmate because we were just super close. And I said, look, I wanted to get you guys something amazing that you would have as a memory to hold on to forever. I got the DJ to play it, and she just started bawling her eyes. And she said it was the best wedding gift that she got, and I was like, well, that to me that really touches my heart because it means that it was something I wanted to give to her. And
awesome.
Chelsea was just super cool.
She is cool. And it's so funny, I totally just thought to myself, I was at that wedding and I don't remember seeing it. What the heck?
No. If I could have been at Chelsea's wedding, that would have been legendary.
That's awkward that I didn't remember that at all. Oh,
yeah.
Crack up. It was a big night, so I probably didn't remember that at all. But yeah, she won MasterChef of the year I entered.
Oh, wow, crazy. Yeah.
2011 we filmed it, and I think it came out 2012 maybe.
Sounds about right.
So about 10 years on now.
Yeah.
A long time, which we skipped on past.
Yeah. So let's get back to the impetus and the formation of Palette.
Yes.
Because this is obviously where you bring your fine dining work that you do in Australia, your organically, locally grown produce from Glenorchy, and you take all these little things that you've been able to, skills in the tool belt, and bring them all together. What was the process for actually getting Palette up and running?
I think the first thing was really getting my head around whether I could do something like this, whether I could be my own boss, whether I could run my own business, whether I had confidence and faith in myself. And again, I guess that comes back to me just going back to kind of listening to what my nana would advise me, just have a go. Have a good go.
She's there.
And if
she's always there.
Exactly. And if it doesn't work out, you'll figure another way or you'll make it work somehow.
Yeah.
So with the help of my partner, like we did a lot of research into what we needed in order to set ourselves up.
Yeah.
We found an ideal place. I finished up working at Power Plant, and their concept is quite similar. Obviously, they're gluten-free and vegan as well.
Yes,
and it's so good to have two
spoiled for choice, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to some towns and they don't even have one.
Or
anything on the menu. So to be able to provide that, and again, comes back to inclusivity.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be able to have them as another opportunity in our town is awesome and nice to have worked for them, and to be able to see that they have a completely different style to us, and we are in our own element as well.
Yeah.
So we ended up finding the place that we're in still currently now, and the work was pretty hard. I'd say for about 4 months, we were just getting all the foundations sorted, pulling everything out, setting everything up, meeting requirements by the local council. And then I guess purchasing all the things to put together to set it all up and get it all fitted out. Like that work alone is mind-boggling. And then just designing a menu around what we loved and things that kind of met people in the middle. Obviously being as wholesome and locally sourced as we could have found, but also to try and not scare people off. We don't want to just have like completely green salads where people are like, whoa, what the no I don't want that.
No.
So going for more like recognizable things like pizza and burgers and things like that, but done a little bit differently without the animal products. A lot more wholesome.
It was the burgers that got me. That was my gateway. The burgers and I think the pitta.
Oh, nice.
Those were my gateways. Still love them.
But it also gave us a chance to kind of spread ourselves out a bit, not just in the kitchen and create food, but it gave us a chance to create a space out of that. So having changed what was a motorcycle garage into a functioning kitchen and cafe, and then having a driveway that would have accessed that motorcycle garage originally.
Yes, absolutely.
Turned into a garden with the support and help from Just Thrive next door, the wellness centre that we share the space with.
Yeah, it's the yoga Pilates
dance
studio that's next door to it. It
is,
yeah.
So
nice.
it's such a great space to be able to share in similar things that resonate.
Yeah, it's all healthy mind body type stuff. I mean, the two complement each other very, very well.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, I wanted to, being back here in Whangarei, I really wanted to connect into my my Māori side, my taha Māori, and that encouraged me to speak more Māori. In the shop, and when people would come in, even having my staff my staff are amazing, and I feel like the food we create is because of the people that we have, which then also equals the customers that we have.
Absolutely.
And that also adds value to the space that we have.
I'd agree with all of that.
And my winning formula always has been, your people come first, and if you treat them well and you treat them right, they'll treat your customer well, which comes second. And then your people plus your customer equal your outcome, whatever that is, profit or otherwise. And I'm just so grateful to be able to have such an amazing staff behind me, and it's only recently, I guess, that when I look back and see how much work we've done together, how much work we've done in regards to training and setting ourselves up to be able to hand it to people that have the same passion as us, that share the same drive and motivation, and they kind of run it as if it's their own business, because it's in the name as well. It's a collective. It's all of us together collectively, wholesomely providing a great pellet for our town.
Now, it's interesting that you talk about, getting back in touch with your Māori community and like your use of te reo in actually in amongst the team, because you have some very exciting news, don't you?
Yes.
And we're filming this on Thursday. I'm just going to quickly check my watch. Thursday the 21st. And today you made a very, very large and very important announcement.
I did.
Would you care to share that, please?
Sure. After working a long time now, nearly 10 or so years plus in the kitchen, it's time for me to move myself out of the kitchen. And I always said at the start of my apprenticeship as well that if I ever noted that my passion was waning, that it was becoming a job and I was just clocking in 9 to 5 and I wasn't there passionately and providing as best as I can, which I mean I still am. I'm still there and I'm still providing as much as I possibly can. But I guess my partner put it right in saying you've got so much more skills to provide that like useful in the kitchen, but also outside the kitchen. There's so much more you could be doing.
Absolutely.
And in him saying that, it just encouraged me to think, okay, well, what else can I do? Like, what other things should I be implementing or putting my energy into?
Yeah, what should you be doing?
And it's always been community, even in the shop. Like I said, creating the space has always been about community, creating an inclusive space, creating a space where language is spoken and accepted and appreciated, where Māori music and Māori culture has always been a part of our ethos, blessing our food at 11:11 every day, just adding tikanga where we can find places for it. And that encouraged me to then take a stand for the coming elections as the Māori ward. There'll be 2 Māori wards elected to our local council for this term. It's the first time it's happened in our history. I'm absolutely grateful for our council for being able to allow us to have those available to us, because I know some councils didn't necessarily want it, but I'm glad that our council has chosen to take the mantle and see how that goes, and I'm keen to get in and give it a good go. And I don't know all the things, but I'm willing to learn as much as I possibly can to stand for the people, for Māori, for our district, but also for our generation. And it kind of encourages me also to know that myself, and I guess you've learnt through my story.
Yes, very much so.
That me as a Māori, I'm not just that. my family are New Zealand European as well, and acknowledge my whakapapa to them. But I also acknowledge the LGBT community, which I'm a part of myself as well.
Yep.
The veganism community.
Yep.
The dog owner community.
Hey, doggos.
And local business owner.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I've got myself in so many different communities within our district that I don't necessarily speak for any of them, but I can definitely hear them, and I can hear that there's still a lot of them are still in suffering, and it's 2022 now. We should be in positions where egalitarianism and equality is something that we're all talking about. How do we best get there? What's
Absolutely,
the next best step to getting to egalitarianism? We're the poor in a society. The society is as poor as its poorest people.
Yes.
And I don't mean that financially or any of that sort of stuff. I mean in suffering and not having a healthy, warm home, and not having shelter, and not having food. That's how poor we all are if we're not elevating each other. And I guess my corridor around that is we're stronger together when we work for each other.
Yeah.
And that takes you out of your own shoes and puts you in someone else's and think,
oh, absolutely.
if I can support that person somehow without being overbearing or telling them what they should or shouldn't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I can be just a kind listening ear, sometimes that's enough.
Yeah. And, that sort of thing is very important as well. And often we can take some of the small things for granted. 7 years ago, when I was living in Auckland, I undertook the big sleep out that LifeWise do. And what it is organisations put small teams together and you go sleep in the quadrangle of AUT. You take the clothes you have, a sleeping bag, and you get given a bit of cardboard, and you sleep like you're homeless for the night. And I did that with a few friends, and we raised some money, which everyone's encouraged to do. It's rough as guts, night's sleep, and to find myself in that situation where it's been like, well, I've had a nice comfy bed and all of these sorts of things. I mean, I camped when I was younger and it was a stretcher and stuff like that, but it had never been on concrete, bit of cardboard, sleeping bag, hoping like hell I'm going to get some sleep. And that gave me a huge appreciation and understanding for people that are less fortunate than myself in terms of housing opportunities or food and all of those sorts of things. In Auckland on K Road, there is a wonderful cafe called Merge Cafe.
I know of it. It's awesome.
Every time I am in Auckland and that cafe is open, I will walk in there and I will ask whoever's behind the counter if I can buy meals, because you have a little card that you can do and you can buy people meals. Wow. And I always go in and it'll always be like I'll always spend $50 on meals, because for me something like that is super important, and that was my takeaway from having done the LifeWise Big Sleep Out, and I will continue to support those sorts of organisations, because
awesome, bro.
Yeah. When you see those sorts of things like firsthand, you go, oh, that's really unfortunate. But when you get put in a situation where it's like, no, you're going to live it, but it's just for one night, and it will be safe. You kind of have a really good understanding, or you have a better understanding of what it must be like to be homeless, having nowhere to live, not knowing where your next meal's coming from, and all of that sort of stuff. And that is really hard.
Absolutely. And that, for me, I guess, telling my story again today, like, if you don't know a lot of struggle or a bit of loss or any of that sort of that situation you put yourself in, if you don't know that, it's not your fault.
No.
But it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
No, absolutely not.
It's still happening.
Yep.
It's still happening here in Whangarei, in our town.
Yep. As I travel throughout Northland, I see it everywhere. It's everywhere. So you coming on as someone who's going to be running for the Māori ward, you're in a position where you can be inside and if successful, affect change.
Absolutely.
And anyone that's willing to do that is amazing.
Thank you. And I guess that's why I want to be as transparent as I have been tonight, to show that I am as human as everyone else. And I've gone through as much loss and trauma and achievements as others as well.
High highs, low lows, but just you've for me, as someone who's known you for, or certainly of you for a few years, to be able to hear a human story is amazing. And that's why we do this podcast, is to just hear human stories.
Absolutely.
Because it is absolutely amazing to hear what people have gone through. And all of the podcasts so far, people have had some incredible journeys, and yours is different because it's uniquely your own, but it's equally as amazing as everyone else's, and all of our future guests as well. So on that high note, Zee Tana, I would like to thank you so much for coming in and sitting down with myself today and talking so openly and honestly about your life, your passion, your creativity with food, and kind of what the next steps are for you. We wish you all the best, and maybe we might get you back in.
Oh, absolutely. When I'm elected.
There you go.
but that would mean you're practicing. We're stronger together when we work for each other.
There we go. Very cool. So again, thank you so much for coming
pleasure.
in.
Thank you for having me.
Very
I appreciate
it. Wow, Zee.
Yeah.
Far out. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Still to this day, blown away.
Yeah.
Completely blown away.
Well travelled.
Well travelled.
I mean, to be fair, he spent most of his time between here and Aussie, but he's gone fucking everywhere.
I know. And he talks about his time in Whangarei.
Yeah.
Hamilton. It's interesting. We don't really touch on the MasterChef stuff that much.
No.
And I remember when we were when we were sitting down, and because every time we have an artist, I always like to sit down with them and talk a little bit beforehand with them. And he said to me, "Are we going to talk about MasterChef?" And I was like, "Not if you don't want to."
Yeah.
And I said, "Look, how about this? If it comes up, it comes up." And it did. We kind of touched on it and then moved forward.
Yeah.
Because MasterChef for him was 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, it's probably not really a part of his current journey.
No, it's not. And he has such an interesting journey as a collective.
Yeah.
That's a really, really small part.
Yeah.
Like he is so open. He's incredibly transparent.
Yeah.
And he's so articulate, massively articulate as well. He conveys his thoughts really, really well.
Yeah. No, he's always kind of been like that with me as well. Like, even way back when I first met him, he was always very straight up as well. Wouldn't sit there and kind of lead you into going, oh yeah, let's go do this. He'd be like, oh no, that's not me. It's kind of how he's like. So he is very transparent about who he is. Yes. I really like that.
What were the big takeaways for you out of all of this?
Like I say, just his journey. I had no idea how much he'd travelled.
Yeah.
In Aussie, like working on super yachts, to working in Queenstown, to working with those high profile Hollywood actors down there.
Was it Reese Witherspoon and
Yeah, like it's just a crazy journey with a lot of not weird, but big events happening as well.
Like his life kind of goes, big event, big event, big
certainly
event.
Does, yeah.
And it's just, he talks about those big events like, oh, it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's just, for him, it's
nothing.
I
worked on super yachts.
Yeah.
I was the head chef on a super yacht.
I cooked with Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
We'll just gloss over it all.
It was very cool. I was like, far out.
Yeah.
It's like amazing, bro.
I know.
How do you get that opportunity and live in Whangarei? Not to be put down Whangarei, but not a lot of people in Whangarei would have had those experiences.
No,
so it's really cool to hear.
And it was cool that he obviously grew up here. He then went away, came back, went away, came back, went away, came back again, went away. But then he's come here. He started up the Palate Wholesome Collective as well, and you can see that where he is now, he's like, cool, well, I've given to the community for a good number of years, and how he's moving into politics. And
I think that's the logical path forward for him. He does have a lot of good ideas.
He does, and him,
and he's a good voice for the community, especially with his background.
And he's running for the Māori ward, as well, which is just absolutely amazing. He would be, if he's elected, he will do some real good for the community.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not wanting to be biased in any way, shape or form, but Zee, such a good guy. just sort of one of those people that you can just talk to.
Yeah.
And, there's no pretense.
No,
There's no hidden agenda. He really is the guy that I first knew when I went to Pallet Wholesome. He is the exact same guy.
Yeah.
And just sitting in the chair opposite him where you are now was, a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, no doubt.
So where can people find, see, hear, where can they grasp Zee's...
My book?
Yes, Zee's podcast.
So for visuals, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and that's under the Northland Artist Conversation. For audio, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts, also under the Northland Artist Conversation. And if you're an artist in the area or you're coming into the region and you want to sit down and have a chat, sit here and abuse Mark, just have a chat with Mark, you can find us, or you can email us on hello@northlandartistconversation.co.nz.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very kindly. That's a great segue there, the nice point to transition across. And if you want to support the podcast a little bit more, we also have Patreon. Now, Patreon is where you can support us financially. We have 2 tiers. We have the first tier, which is... a cup of coffee, and that's $5 a month. We then also have the second tier, which we have lovingly called Coffee Addict, and that's only $20 a month. But what that tier gives you is it gives you a few extra perks and bits and pieces that you don't get with the $5 one. We've tried to keep the currency and value as close to New Zealand dollars as possible. Reason being is that when people use Patreon, one of the things that I kind of found is that it would always be in US dollars, like the currency conversion. So if you're like going, I will support, and it's like $20, by the time the conversion rate kicks across, it's like $25-$30. So we have gone with Australian dollars, which is as close as I could get it. So if you are interested, please feel free. Patreon.com/Northland Artist Conversation. You can find us there as well. And that's one of the things is that as we grow, because Zee will be, man, what number will he be? Number 7, 8? I think it's 8. Like the amount of growth that we've had already in such a short space of time is really humbling. Yeah,
and we've shot a lot of people, not like that, but we've filmed a lot of people.
We have filmed a lot of people with a lot of conversations, and it's really nice, because as a production team, you guys have been able to. We've been able to keep that consistently moving forward, and Marino, who does our communications, has booked us up well in advance as well, and Kat Tasker, who obviously does the social media, she's obviously keeping us up to date and current as well. So
everyone's doing an amazing job.
They are, and I, as someone who is kind of the face, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the one that sits down with the artist. I mean, it's humbling to work with people that actually enjoy doing this, and it's incredibly humbling to have the caliber of people that we've had come in and continue to get as well. Marino's been fantastic in trying to get some really good, high-profile people, and love it. It's
and getting
amazing.
them in advance too, which is cool. We can kind of make good planning. We can plan efficiently, and
absolutely,
we always know what's coming up. So big shout out to her.
Shout out to Marino. So I mean, other than that, there's not really more left to say, is there? I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No. So straight down the main camera. My name is Mark Kelly,
and I'm Andrew McKenzie.
And I'm still Mark Kelly. And thank you very much for checking out the Northland Artist Conversation. We will see you guys real soon.